Good morning, dear students. Hope you all are enjoying your online classes at your home. So today we are again here with the same chapter, transpiration, part 2nd. Now in part 1st we have already discussed about introduction, differences between evaporation and transpiration, demonstration of this physiological activity by some activities. Then what are the different types of transpiration, that is stomatal, lenticel, and the third one is cuticular transpiration. And now in this part 2nd we will study what is the mechanism of transpiration, how can we measure the rate of transpiration, and what are the different adaptations seen in the plants to reduce the rate of transpiration. Now come to the next topic, that is mechanism of stomatal transpiration. As we have already discussed that stomatal transpiration accounts for maximum transpiration in the plants, that is near about 90%. So this is the most important type of transpiration occurring in the plants. So here we will study that what is the mechanism of stomatal transpiration in detail. So we have already discussed that how the water will come up to the leaves and then how the water will be released out through those pores called as stomata. So let us revise once again that first of all, water in the soil, it will come to the root hairs. From the root hairs, through the process of osmosis, now from one cell to another cells, it will come into the roots. From the roots, now it will come into the xylem tubes of stem. That water is always carrying upwards against the gravity. So many forces will act together. That is the transpiration pull, that root pressure and cohesion and adhesion forces of water. So many forces will act together, and as a result of that, now the water slowly will come upward. So from the stem of xylem tube, now it will come to the xylem tubes of leaves. In the leaves, we can see those xylem tubes in the veins. Veins and veinlets are the network of those xylem and phloem tubes. Now from the xylem tubes, slowly it will come into the mesophyll cells. This is the diagram showing the internal structure of leaf, and here you can see that these cells are the mesophyll cells. Suppose this is a xylem tube, so from the xylem tube it will come into those mesophyll cells, and then it will come into that intercellular spaces. That light green colored are the intercellular spaces, because mesophyll cells are the parenchymatous cells and they are having large intercellular spaces also. So from those intercellular spaces, now the water will come into that substomatal space. What is substomatal space? Just beneath the pore stomata, the space is called as substomatal space. Now water molecules from the xylem tube, they will come into the mesophyll cells, from the mesophyll cells into the intercellular spaces, then to the substomatal spaces, and finally the water will come out through the stomata by the process of diffusion. So this is the mechanism how the water will transpire out through the stomatas. Now, how to those stomatas will regulate the transpiration? To understand this, first of all, we need to understand the structure of stomata. Now, up to this, I think it is clear to all of you that stomatas are the minute opening present in the epidermis of leaf. These are such a microscopic structure that we can't observe them with the naked eyes. If you want to observe those stomata, you need to peel the skin of leaf, and then when you will observe that peel under the microscope, then you can see the epidermal cells, and in which many small stomatas are present. These stomatas are generally more onto the lower surface. This is the dorsal side, and the lower side is called as ventral side. So the number of stomatas are always maximum or more onto the lower side. Now if we will observe the enlarged structure of stoma, then we will see that stoma is just a pore, and this pore is made up by two adjacent kidney shaped cells called as guard cells. And these guard cells are only responsible for the opening of that pore or closing of that pore. So these guard cells are embedded in the epidermis of the leaves. Now these all are the epidermal cells, and in between the epidermal cells somewhere these guard cells are present, and these guard cells, they are lengthwise they are attached at their adjacent end, but in the middle region they are not attached to each other. These guard cells are also green in color. They will also contain chloroplast, and they will also perform photosynthesis. Even they are also having microfibrils which will help in maintaining their turgor pressure. Turgor pressure in guard cell is very important feature for the opening and closing of stomata that we will discuss later on. So these guard cells will control the opening and closing of stomata. So let's discuss how these guard cells will control the opening and closing of stomatas. Stomatas are generally open during the daytime and they will be closed during the night time. And why it is happening? Because the guard cells are having chloroplast, and during the daytime these chloroplast will perform photosynthesis, and as a result of that photosynthesis, sugar molecule will start concentrating in these guard cells, and they will increase the concentration of cell sap of guard cells. And when they will increase the concentration of cell sap, as a result, what will happen? Now endosmosis will happen. What is endosmosis? Means the movement of water molecule from the epidermal cells into the guard cells to equalize the concentration of water molecules. So it causes the absorption of water from the nearby epidermal cells. Means the water will now start moving from the epidermal cells into the guard cells. And when the water molecules will get inside the guard cells, as a result, those guard cells will swell and bulge out, and they will become turgid. Turgid means hard. And they will open the stoma. And when at night the photosynthetic activity in the guard cell will be stopped, then there will be no sugar synthesized, and hence the osmotic concentration inside the cell will be decreased, and now the cell will lose its turgidity. It will become flaccid due to exosmosis, because when the concentration of sugar molecule is less, then the water will move outward. Again the water will move outward into the epidermal cells, and as a result of that, these guard cells will become flaccid and they will cause the closure of stoma. Now the next is one experiment or activity to show that more transpiration occurs from the lower surface. We have already discussed that the number of stomatas are more onto the lower surface of a leaf, and this can be proved by this activity. In this activity, we need a well-potted potted plant, 2 pieces of cobalt chloride papers, and some glass slides and some clips to attach those papers on leaf. Here also the cobalt chloride papers will act as a moisture indicator. Now we will take one potted plant and we'll select one leaf of that plant, but keep it in mind that you should not detach that leaf from the plant, otherwise it will not perform the transpiration. Then we will place one piece of cobalt chloride paper over a glass slide and hold it on to the lower side of the leaf, and other paper onto the upper side of the leaf in the similar manner. Then we will fasten both the slide with the help of these clips. Then we will keep that setter as apparatus in the sunlight. And after an hour, we will observe that the piece of that cobalt chloride paper onto the lower side, it will turns pink very fast. But the paper on the upper surface, it will remain the same, or it will take a longer time to turn pink, because the number of stomatas are more on the lower side as compared to the upper side of the leaves. In dicots plants, generally the number is either very less or totally absent onto the upper side of the leaf. So in this activity, hence it is proved that the number of stomatas are more onto the lower surface. That's why the cobalt chloride paper will turn pink very soon. Now come to the next topic, that is measuring the rate of transpiration. There are mainly 2 methods for measuring the rate of transpiration, that is weighing method, and second one is potometer method. In weighing method, we will discuss 3 different activities, and the main principle in this activity is just to note the difference of the apparatus before the activity and after the activity, and it would be concluded that the difference will be the loss of water only due to the transpiration. Now first one is weight potometer. In this, we will take a well-watered potted plant and we will cover its soil surface through a plastic bag to prevent the direct water loss from the soil. To prevent the direct evaporation of water through it, we will cover the soil surface with a plastic bag, and then we will weight this apparatus and we will note down the weight of this apparatus. Then we will keep that apparatus in sunlight once again, and after 1 or 2 hours we will note the difference in the weight, and it is considered that this difference will be due to the loss of water only through the transpiration. Next is weighing method 2. In this activity, we'll take a small plant and we will fix it in a glass bottle with a graduated side tube. Why we are using here a graduated slide tube? Because the loss of water due to transpiration is very less and it is difficult to note down that difference through a bottle. So we will take a bottle in which a graduated side tube is attached so that we can easily measure the value from this side tube. Now we will fix that plant in this bottle through any rubber stopper or any cork, and then we will fill this bottle and we will put some oil over here. Why we are putting oil over and why we are pouring oil over here? Again, to prevent the direct evaporation from the water surface. Then we will keep that apparatus again in a sunlight, and the difference in the weight will indicate the loss of water by the shoot due to the transpiration only. Now same here, the third method is, in this we will take one leafy shoot with no roots and then we will fix it in a test tube. Again we will fill that test tube with the water and again we will spill some oil over it, so again to prevent that direct water loss through evaporation. Then we will weight this test tube. For weighing, we can also do one thing, that we can keep that test tube in a beaker and we will weigh the two together, and after 2 hours we will weigh again, and the difference again will be showing the rate of transpiration. Now come to the next method, that is potometer method. Potometer is a device which is used for measuring the rate of water intake by the plants. And generally 2 potometers are used, that is Ganong's potometer and Darwin's potometer. Ganong's potometer is also there in your practical syllabus. So this is a Ganong's potometer, and this potometer is made up of glass. And to measure the rate of transpiration through a Ganong's potometer, first of all we'll take a leafy shoot and we will cut that leafy shoot twig obliquely. You can see here it is cut obliquely so that a large surface area will be in water contact for a better water intake. Now we will fill this bottle with water, and here you can see one graduated capillary tube is attached to that potometer. Next we need to introduce an air bubble in this horizontal graduated capillary tube by slightly lifting this tube up and then dipping it again in the beaker containing this water. And then we will keep this apparatus for some hours, and then as this shoot will transpire, this water vapor lost is replaced by this water, which will result in the movement of this air bubble towards the forward side. Then we can note down this difference in the volume of the capillary tube, and this reading in the capillary tube will give the volume of water lost in this given time. So by this method we can calculate or we can measure the rate of transpiration. Now come to the next topic, that is adaptation in plants to reduce transpiration. Plants need to control their rate of transpiration because excessive transpiration will lead to scarcity of water in their body. So generally the plants which are growing in a xerophytic condition or in desert areas, they are having some adaptation to control their rate of transpiration so that they can easily survive in the scarcity of water also. And for this they have some adaptation in their body, means in their body their stomatas are sunken, means the stomatas are present in this groove. you can see that this is a groove, and in this there is stomata. This one is a stomata and this one is stomata. So sunken stomatas are there, and sometimes the stomatas are also covered with the hair. For example, in oleander leaf. In oleander leaf, such kind of adaptation is present to reduce the rate of transpiration. And in some of the gerophytic plants like cactus and even in aloe vera also, they have reduced their leaves to spines to reduce the rate of transpiration or to reduce the loss of water by transpiration. In nerium and pine and in acacia also, they are having very few leaves, and even the number of leaves are few, and the leaves are of narrow shape to again reduce the rate of transpiration. In some of the desert grasses, they will fold their grasses. These grasses will fold on or roll over each other to reduce the rate of transpiration. And mango and banyan, they are having a very thick layer of cuticle. That waxy layer will also prevent the rate of transpiration. It will lower the rate of transpiration. So these are some of the adaptation which can be seen to reduce the rate of transpiration. Now our next topic is factors affecting rate of transpiration. This topic we will continue in the next part, third. And your today's assignment is again to prepare a good notes at your home. Just go through the whole chapter which we have completed, and practice all the diagrams and go through all the activities very carefully, because these activities are very important from the exam point of view, and solve all the exercises related to this portion. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.